Last I have heard, at one time the Blessed One was dwelling in the royal domain of Vulture Peak Mountain, with a great gathering of monks and a great assembly of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One was absorbed in the samadhi of the many aspects of phenomena called profound appearance. At the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, looking at the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom, saw the five skandhas and their natural emptiness. Then, through the power of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to the noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, how should a son of the lineage trained who wishes to follow the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom? Thus he spoke, and the noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva answered the Venerable Shariputra with these words. Shariputra, those men and women of the lineage who wish to follow the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom should look at it like this. The five skandhas should be seen purely in their natural emptiness. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form also is not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, recognition, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, like this, all phenomena are emptiness. And having no characteristics, they are unborn and unceasing. They are not impure or pure. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no recognition, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no sensation, no phenomena. There is no quality of sight and so on until no quality of mind and no quality of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance and no exhaustion of ignorance, and so on up to no old age and death and no exhaustion of old age and death. In the same way, there is no suffering, no origin, no ending, and no path, no wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, since there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and abide by means of the profound perfection of wisdom. And since their minds have no obscurations, they have no fear. Transcending falsity, they attain nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times have relied upon the perfection of wisdom, and have become true and complete Buddhas of unsurpassable, perfect, and complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of the profound perfection of wisdom, a mantra of insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra, a mantra which calms all suffering, should be known as truth, for it is not deceptive. A mantra of the perfection of wisdom is proclaimed. Teata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhisoha. Shariputra, this is how a Bodhisattva Mahasattva should be trained in the profound perfection of wisdom. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and said to the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, Venerable Avalokiteshvara, that he had spoken well. Well done, O son of the lineage, it is so. O son of the lineage, since it is just so, the profound perfection of wisdom should be practiced just as you have taught, and the Tathagatas will also rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, the Venerable Shariputra and the Venerable Avalokiteshvara, Bodhisattva Mahasattva, and the entire gathering, as well as worldly beings, gods, humans, asuras, and gandharvas, rejoiced and praised the words of the Blessed One. Lamadan Gambo Jetsun Jangde Yangla Changsebo Gangi Lodru Drini Drinre Nita Namla Rapsewe Jinye Drakun Jijin Zijin Ninji Toka Lembanzin Kanda Sibe Sura Mari Shoto Dunye Jizewin Joso Kuma Puji Tase Yama Chuchu Yangye Song Jota Shedu Nyemo Nyemo Leju Jato Dunze Chin Mari Mese Dunye Nyungu Jini Jose Veluna Dene Dajin Sanju Taisen Yuden Luzo Gyase Tuwabu Chura Chudon Chuni Gendre Talu Minse Jambe Yangla Yu Om Aravatana Di Om Aravatana Di Om Aravatana Di Seden Chunju Chenra Vuzeki Dalu Timun Minva Rasene Kada Tenju Shunlu Topayi Lodru Pupi Nangwan Satu Zo Om Benzan Bili Ahum Wanshin Seji Saji Om Benzarike Ahum Shichari Koyu Jimbovi Visu Ruye Javore Raja Luvapo Lo Zambule No Balache Jan Jaminye Ludan Luva Mayadon Mayaje Yadena Nam Jodo Jaminye Da Jaminye Jeda Rinpoche Ruo Pasanji Shin Joyeba Mame Bali Lodo Kwamo Rinpoche Nongo Rinpoche Samo Rinpoche Menko Rinpoche Lambo Rinpoche Tangsho Rinpoche Mabe Rinpoche
Ngado ribe wanshu je zoje, Tama tempe tabo kenjuje, Yose juba chela sowade, Yose juba chela sowade, Yosun kunde lama doje chan, Kala kande shenye suzone, Chodan tumo mundu zozepe, Treje lama nana sowade, Treje lama nana sowade, Raja sara guna tayemi, Kezan tapa jubi jumusho, Seve jubi take sevayi, Senze shenye nana sowade, Senze shenye nana sowade, Kewa kundu yanda namada, Chame chirgyu bena no shishin, Sada na juyin pen razone, Doje changi gopa nyutosho, Doje changi gopa nyutosho, Soje chudan soje chunama, Chanchu pado dani kyosuchi, Lage chuje jibe sonaji, Rola peche sanje juwa shu, Soje chudan soje chunama, Chanchu pado dani kyosuchi, Lage chuje jibe sonaji, Rola peche sanje juwa shu, Soje chudan soje chunama, Chanchu pado dani kyosuchi, Lage chuje jibe sonaji, Rola peche sanje juwa shu.
So, at this particular time, we are here to engage in the practice of sublime Dharma.
Chödu sege chödege sengde ani senga soda soya, sen chöba, marumba de chöba soya.
So what is meant by practicing Dharma? The practicing Dharma is literally to modify or to transform one's mind. So transforming one's mind is all about practicing Dharma.
아니 센데 마rumba de chöba 아니 ale 센데 모시바, 마rumba de 모시바. 아니 되네 chöba.
So why we really need to transform our mind? If you look at our mind at this point, our mind is that is inappropriate. The way of our thinking and all are inappropriate. So how can we really transform that inappropriateness of this mind? Is to by identifying the inappropriate, the way of thinking, the inappropriate way of thinking. Through identification of this inappropriate way of thinking, one then be able to engage in the practice to eradicate this.
제가 나도 최세대 지 먼저와도 공식으로 논수라고 공식이라고 아니 등대지 제나니 등대지 몰라 다다바도 내봐도.
So sometimes, so we kind of having the understanding when it comes to the Dharma. We have that understanding of it is mere tradition, or it is mere, kind of a custom. So this is how we define.
인나요 등대지 가제 가서부터 따주 여행에서 걸어 따주 여행의 추진이나 아니 양대 템포 보지 개념으로 와. 문제 도에 뭐 보이러 와. 대미나 건축생의 제일 문제이 뭐 보러 왔다.
So then again, it is when it comes to the practitioner or religion, there are religious tradition that has a very sophisticated philosophical understanding, and there are other religion which doesn't really have much sophisticated philosophical understanding, but mere believing in some kind of Lord and so forth.
Tendrige tadu mongbo yebi nanero tachi pe che sasho che jache sho te te nambi tadu re la na mindio ye jema de.
I would probably feel that safely can declare that among all the religious traditions, when it comes to the philosophical understanding, the Buddhism has the most profound and the most sophisticated philosophical understanding.
Jitse karere senaro ni control chap chigore sedi ro hiragi roda chebi chap chigore ni control teba chegore sedi hiragi roda chebi teba chegoro tachi chene je yenge chigi sema jote yenge chigi tono ni chara le ka chesho sela yundi jinsen da de.
Why? Because right from the beginning, when Buddhism talks about taking refuge in rituals, taking refuge in rituals is not mere having faith and devotion to the refuge rituals. Rather, one's practice of taking refuge in ritual must be grounded upon, sound reasons. It is one's practice of refuge must be, supported by the clear wisdom. So therefore, when it comes to the taking refuge in rituals, having devotion and the faith in rituals, we're not mere talking about having faith, but rather it must be done on the basis of sound reasoning.
Then gushi jamba yi mai baro chura ra yi ta che chena ni zo che jao shu se de lao yun de ro beti chi chura ngal ya ma jena chura ya bo yo ma de se ke chi ya mai ba ro ra ni gi na ju de na ni zombo ji mo na ro yeng chi ta chi pe ji ji ten bi ta chi chena ya ro ta na bi che de din sa wa ro chi cha do ro sa la.
So it is very profound, because taking refuge must be done on the basis of analytically, instead of just single-pointed sort of devotion and faith. And then here again, when it comes to the analytical process, we are given a choice, or we are given a freedom or liberty of engaging in the process of analytic process, just independently done by oneself. Not really one's process of analytical process must be dependent upon others, but rather one need to analyze oneself. Why we are taking refuge in church? For what purpose?
저도 좀비 로제 라소나로 소수 판만 내 zon대로 소수 개개 내 zon대 딱 군조기 봐도 이 좀비 쇼를 제일 로제 제가 지송.
So when it comes to the positive advice or the positive instructions, as being a positive person, and the teachings on how to be oneself as a ethically, how one can really engage in the actions that are ethically sound, is common teachings among all the religious traditions.
다티 노기 데리 모습 거서 봐봐니 수기 로자들은 녀고요레니 수기 매제셔야 되는 거서 통고고요레서나 아니 던지게 매봐 아니 매도 보고데 덤버 투병 보.
So at this particular time that we're all here, to listen to the advices of the Buddha Shakyamuni, and we're here to take a medicine that is prescribed by the Buddha Shakyamuni.
된적이 또 투명 뭐 대처랑이 단다 쳐봤잖아. 간제지 요리 되기도 그러와.
So if we were to ask a question to us, ourselves, when we speak about Buddha, what kind of, in a definition, how do you really define yourself as a Buddha? What do you really think about when it comes to the questions of the Buddha, the term Buddha?
당연히 내가 먼저 쉬우지가 처음으로 들어와. 님이버지 제가서. 배나 단단 니기 맞아 배나 니기 빠비 빠바데 다른 매비 온도 들어와. 니 빠바이 빠바데 단다 간제지 내려서나 맞추 초바 제트고 말이 당 맞아 오지로 와.
For example, if I were to ask, how is my, grandfather right now, my dad's dad, and I'll have no answer to it because I can't really draw any, presumptions with regard to my grandfather.
그래서 노아를 주는 님이 제대로 와.
Because he might have taken a rebirth in one of the 6 realms. This is foresudden.
또 투병 뭐 단타 간제지여서나 맞추기 초바 제토그리로 와. 당 맞추기 초바 제색으로 배세 종의 여반은 인지 간련내 되어서라서나 아니 데려와. 농생 전리 주비 대통령이 뭐라 와. 진주니 소지 뭐 내려. 진주니 좀 타대 많이 배. 농생 전기 대통령으로 봐. 또 되게 쳤어.
So here again, if we were to ask how the Buddha is right now, so then we have an answer prepared for it according to the text or the scriptures. Because so Buddha is in the form of mere energy of the wind and the mind, the combination of mere wind and the mind, and it is also known as inseparable or the non-dual with bliss and emptiness, which is non-dual of wisdom, compassion, and power. It's embodiment of non-dual wisdom, compassion, and power.
된주의 강사 기계 넘버를 차도에나 단단히 늘 미바체서나 통매래로 와. 기용도 많이 대바지네 말이야.天上준 명예지.
So if we are able to really define Buddha in such a way, so then you will have an understanding that when you engage in the meditation or the visualizations of the Buddha, you will have understanding that Buddha will be in front of oneself, who is completely, when it comes, because by defining the Buddha's qualities, it is it is free of obstructions. It cannot be obstructed.
맨날 가르쳐래서로 아니 내게 떠나 친구 말이왜 고고 말이와서서나 아니 준비 다니래 먹어 왔어야 돼 기초장에 말이로.
Embodiment of the wisdom, having Buddha is identified as embodiment of wisdom. Someone who is embodied such an extraordinary wisdom, so then he or she has no obstruction to his or her knowledge.
아니 니 늘라 페로치세네 아니 야 쇼와테네 아니 페가 말해배서서나 아니 세와 로 마부치리 세와 작동 본질이 채워요래 저런 찍고를 세워요비 손에 지어래 최기 좀 못되나요 로고 말해.
So therefore, when you engage in the practice of the invocation, then Buddha will definitely appear in front of oneself. Being Buddha, being as embodiment of compassion again here.
아니 니빠여 말해배서서나 아니 니빠 닌두래 다로 나초이 ngone 도모도리 마도 코로니 ngone 니 니빠 만도서 이제는 요 말해. 가르서는 간지 단지 롱세 전에 주빈 잘리게 넘어진 인사디 고 토메기로 니된지 잘로. 맞지 때문에 저기 토제 토메세지로. 되는 많이 봐 토메지 니데.
So then Buddha's, when it comes to the Buddha's power, so whether it is from our side, whether we are prepared to receive the powers of the Buddha, whether we are suitable enough to receive ourselves as the powers of the Buddha. But when it from the point of Buddha's side, from the Buddha's side, that power is always there. It's power, extraordinary power, because, as we mentioned earlier, Buddha being a mere, wind and the mind. So therefore, there's no obstructions. It is free from obstructions.
아마를 미면은 아미 부기 동해 용바데 통고 말해. 인자나 산제 첨바였잖아 통고래. 예스지. 別 고대로 쇼에.
So there's an example. If mother lost her sight, in other words, the blind mother cannot really fathom or cannot really see the detail the suffering of his or her child. But when it comes to the Buddha, it's not like a blind mother who is not being able to see the detail about their child, but rather he's able to fathom the intensity of the suffering, the entire suffering of all entire sentient beings.
아마라 라파드 강라여 자네 아미 부기 도바질레 리트 강에 tren도나 아미 님바테 메체고 시그 말이로 아마 라동이나 아마 니바 메바리.
So, similarly, just look at this mother again. Mother, who, if his or her, if the mother's child is helplessly, left alone and somewhere, and not being able to get up and so forth, and mother will instinctively have a power to actually to free her child from that particular sufferings.
수수 모노나 제주도 마추어이나 산제문의 니바만다세 도바여 말이라 제세티잖아.
So if we ourselves is prepared enough and become oneself conducive enough to receive the blessings from the Buddha, so there's no doubt, there's no obstructions, granting a blessings from the Buddha's side.
나 때문에 때문에 투비한 거다. 랑게 평상이 되게 나가는 소왔다네. 좋아. 그만 가서 좀 해봐 책입니다.
By reflecting one's mind upon the qualities of the Buddha as we mentioned earlier, and now we will visualize Buddha and try to place one's mind upon the Buddha who is visualized in the front of oneself, at the level of one's forehead. So try to relax your, body, and maintain whatever the body posture is comfortable for oneself, and then we will begin to meditate.
그것들이 그런 집어지냐 말이야. 네 간선 것이 저는 대중 차지. 시바나 얘네 사선주 주면 네 정조랑 잘 봐봤어.
Having prepared one's mind and cultivated positive motivations, the teachings that one is receiving today is the Lam Rim, the good stages to the path of enlightenment.
변나 주면서 소나 가르래로 미파세에 타로. 미파세지 지를 주면서 나그러.
So, what is the purpose of lamp? The purpose of lamp or light, in other words, is to dispel the darkness.
변나 단다 컴반지는 나고한테 가래 생지 내려서나 주면이 생지 내려라.
So, at this particular time, in this particular room, it is not overpowered by darkness, it's because of the light. But there is a light which actually dispels the darkness.
얘는 남시대 와 나온 롬바나 이 세차지면도 가래 생지 내려서나 아니 매바이 생지 내려 메시비 와 메시바이 생지 내려 메시비 메비.
So then one can ask the question to oneself, why my mind is not illuminated? Why my mind is actually, clear and illuminated? It's because it's completely obscured by the darkness of ignorance.
진주이 미시비 메바데 세타를 가르쳐 버려서서나 아니 미시바데 무언지네 데라 카데 예니 미시바 세제 이시라고 좋아 이 시대 얘기로.
So how can we then overcome? How can we then really eradicate this the darkness of ignorance? First of all, one needs to identify ignorance. What is meant by ignorance? What ignorance refers? What kind of ignorance that we are talking about? It is through proper identification of one's ignorance, one will then be able to, seek wisdom that serves as an antidote towards that ignorance.
제세 시월하게 손으로 등에 녀선들이 따라가서 말아. 얘는 거래 연락되다 당진에 두배 싫어 된도 송세요 되러와. 성적이 손간 나치 친구에 되니 돈이 두배 싫어 된도 송세에 송여러와.
So if you look at the Shantideva's guide to the Buddhist way of life, he has stated that entire teachings of the Buddha, that the purpose of entire teachings of the Buddha is to really to teach about how to cultivate wisdom that understands emptiness.
아니 단다 저 간제 돈이 도비 싫어면나 니 샤주여 말이라. 매바 샤주 매바 소세래. 돈이 도비 로면와이나 된득이 지 샤주 되지 장나오세네리 랑문에 얘기 말이. 가르세는 가디는 나고나 나도. 세와 가시 슈청보여나 돈이 도비 싫어면나 나고노 나도 그래라.
So if one is unable to accomplish, one is unable to achieve wisdom, understanding emptiness, one will not find a path of enlightenment, because one will always remain within the darkness of ignorance. Regardless of how much, strongly developed mental quality that one may have, such as compassion and so forth, so long as one lacks this wisdom that understands emptiness, one will not be able to find the path that leads to enlightenment.
저기 돈이 또 별로 하지 래 제터로 와. 아니 미지 술을 따와는 이 시바 팽거 말로 로 라지기 롱을 전에 로된 라지를 제거 인자네. 아니 나바 탄치는 매바제 와. 디바드 디바상. 되잖아. 지는 상주 선바도서 가와 자타만 벌어 초사 되자 제거에 지체 가르잖아. 라지 디바드 디바들 카데 잡에 된다로 와.
So, therefore, when we speak about wisdom that understands emptiness, the wisdom understanding emptiness cannot be achieved just like we are looking at the object that is in front of oneself and familiarizing oneself with that particular object with one mind. This is not the case when it comes to the accomplishment of wisdom, achieving wisdom understanding emptiness. Wisdom understanding emptiness must be achieved through a rigorous effort, and this needs to be achieved or accomplished experientially. That's extraordinary experience that need to be, implanted within one's mind state. It is true that one will be able to. So in order to do that, one needs to engage in all kinds of practice, particularly of, purification practice and applying antidotes towards negativities and so forth. So therefore, all those bodhisattvas or the noble beings in the past, they have gone through this application of antidote towards negativities and engaged in the intense engagement of practice of what we call the purification. So therefore, we also, do the same as the followers.
당 말론서 가린 동고만 생각이 너무 말이로. 변화로 세대를 개정 준비제는 세명의 강의 수준에 한으로 다제 얘기하려 거 기들어. 이제 라니기 생각만 좀 라니기 땐데 대화만 통. 근데 제대로 라니를 네바에 받아라는 건지는 도와지. 아니 생각이 안 들어.
So for us, the problem with us is our way of thinking is not very strong, or it's not really powerful enough, and we do not really able to see. We are not being able to really understand, to be able to understand the seat of everlasting happiness within oneself. It's big because of the lack of this understanding. Then we are unable to really engage in the rigorous practice of the Dharma to gain the state of enlightenment.
드리기 넘버 탕진은 비다고 용하라 아니 인데로 용이지라 현이 맞아와라 전 용시에 그러면 얘기 찾아라.
So therefore, in order to really to have a proper understanding of having a seeds of everlasting happiness within oneself, one need to then engage in the practice of the Dharma and study the Dharma.
되게 라마노와 되게 용들라니 자유 사지지 봐. 제가 바르게 조금 뜬거 때문에 제법이 쳐와. 네. 당말 기바집에 주지 쳐와. 쳐와니 던지게 줄은 다 제시. 니다 가서 년시 제다시 이름 봐. 네 남방을 좀 하나 제다지 이름 봐. 자유 사지지.
So in order to listen to the unmistaken instructions such as this Lam Rim, so then it begins with the four headings again here, four outlines. The greatness, the first outline begins with the greatness of the authors given in order to show that the teaching has an immaculate source. And the second is the greatness of the Dharma given to increase one's faith in the instructions. And third outline is the right way to teach and listen to this Dharma with this two greatness. And then the fourth is the sequence in which the disciples are to be taught actual instructions. So those are the four major outlines
아니 다원은 담박 문제는 찌때 림바세에 되는 가르리 살아서나 로초초로 아니 돈벌 언제 자와 신이 된 거래 아니 때네 라마나와 때니 때바나 이런이 되는 주고래 사체대로 로그를 세더라.
So then with the second subheadings of the second outlines, which is the second outlines is the greatness of the Dharma given to increase one's faith in instructions. So this has again two subheadings. Relying upon a spiritual teacher, the qualified spiritual teacher, and relying upon the group spiritual teachers, listen to the teachings in a proper way.
아니 신이 된시된 리차치다 데이테는 가서 때는 로체다장이 발라니리 아니 데이테는 데비테는 녀볼린 비시고 와다 녀보체다니 비츠니제 다 동물리자 다 녀보체다니 비츠들은 아니리 나치 나자는 녀보체바다 녀볼린 증거리 동물리자 다 녀볼린 증거들은 송리 주부 중요도 두모야 나제를 만나서는 주부 레다 두모 나제 주부 챔비 나제를 만나서는 세리 다 동보라 송리 주부 중요 삼바제바 뭐 대제베체 대로로도가 와지 다 뒤에 나게 동보 동보들은 아니리 지대시마 되니 절로제가 지대시마 되게 터대만이 단지 동거지차 단지 대시마데 터대바달아요 이리 니 델레 탄지 말에 대발은 주베 고 담바 장로 모조와 다 델레 탄지 자와 이치지 대바지만이 다 대노게 동거지차 다 델레 탄지 자와 이치지 대바지바달아 소리 니 렌데지 시바다 지다데 시바 선에 조도 지자레 바지 당가서 니 렌데 상내니 다 간이 주고 가르며 보소 그래서 니 자이사지 와 손바데데 자이사지네 제가 렌데시
So
that allen sajitel
So Rinpoche has gone through all this, outlines as usually as usual. So at this point we have reached at the point of at the under the subheadings of reflecting one's mind upon this the law of cause and effect, or the karma. When it comes to the reflecting one's mind upon the law of cause and effect, and reflecting one's mind upon the law of cause and effect in general and in particular. So at this particular time that we have reached under the headings of the particular reflection of the general, the particular explanation of law of cause and effects, and having understood the law of cause and effect, how can one really engage in the practice, or how can one really engage in actions, that is the virtues, and how can one really abandon the engagement or action that are negative.
됐지. 당가 맞sol에 두니 가려요잖아. 저 레지 가서 디바다 디바스니요. 디바다 디바. 디바스나 땡자기 지 마통이 이러. 세우러다. 땡자기 디바데 지러. 땡자기 마통이 송에. 디바스에서는 내가 잠이 되게 송에 손지러. 한 저부도 자녀 와지러. 강에 카도. 디바스는 내가로 오지러. 디바스는 진대서로 지가서 제단에는 카도 시자주 과제나 강에 송에 캐니 조도.
So if you try to understand, try to gain it, try to gain some level of understanding of what is meant by this negative actions and what is meant by the defilements. So if you try to gain the etymological understanding of this too, so when it comes to the negative actions, dipa, it's also translated as a sinful actions, or the sin. The sin is the one that it is an advantageous obstructions. And when it comes to the dipa, or the defilements is a ever present obstructions. So this is how one need to, is a etymological, definition of what is meant by negative karma or what is meant by the defilements.
다 ngos 칸 지제는 거로 소산나도나 카면들어 나고 나체진의 감바저 로고는 전전 두어 제시는 전전 야보 용식으로 로 메시비 나고 비오는 니 세대 로통게 데두두디 고로다세 메시베진 레면도아 말아서 이제 다른 산도나.
So if you look at ourselves, day to day, experience, or day to day, situations, if we really, engage in certain actions blindly, without having a proper understanding and embarking upon that particular path, you may be, gain a little, you may be able to succeed, but you may not. So we can't really guarantee that you will be succeeded by engaging in such actions or embarking upon such a path without really seeing it. So if you really embark upon the path blindly, there's a chances whether you will have positive consequences or it will have negative consequences.
전화로와 맞추기 개척 카톡팅이나 아니 처럼에 산재기 니지 첨보기로와 니지 첨비기 미 작을 위해서 라서나로와 이제 아카체 마롱성이기 니지 제서 예지 차사를 위해서 라니라니는 저거지 제다로와.
Just try to reflect oneself and try to turn oneself and look at oneself and see oneself as an object of the compassion of the Buddha. Are we really the object of compassion of the Buddha?
자그레 가르치는 자그레 라서나 다니엘로 나기기로 미시비 주비 놀러네 미시비 주바 놀러 슈네 아니 게디 진짜마다 와 여자원진이 매비 통나는 친하지 뭘 코도요.
So if you really think carefully and properly, one is really an object of compassion of the Buddha, because we as ordinary beings, completely, confined within the defilements and living in an illusory world. And so therefore, someone who is being within the darkness and pitch black ignorance, within the darkness of pitch black ignorance, and so therefore we are, wandering within the boundary, so not knowing what needs to be done and what not needs to be done. So therefore, one is, an actual compassion, object of compassion of the Buddha.
되게 산나도데 단다로 질리나 소소 고고 슈지로와 되게 나고노 세차 긍이지게 있는 걸 세보게 살아 튀기도로 낸질해서나 뭐네 소소 줄라체네 랭거뼈고 소지로와.
So then if one knows that there's someone who's really leads to the path of clearness, in other words, and a clear path, who is really there to, lead beyond this boundary, then it is worthwhile for us to put an effort to really to follow the footsteps of that individual.
다른 소리 나고 나자들이 미야다리 뒤 야서들 방카다 세보 슈이지 사제 지보 슈이지 통고에는 아주 강한 조건 로로.
So if we know that if we see a place where it is very beautiful place with flowers and so forth, and we all will, put an effort to be able to get that particular place.
이전에 나중에 송고래로 산지기 때문에 이제 라마노와 때문에 계신이다 티비고 된지 차도래로 소소게 로사게 사제지 통 니 로데지 마로는 강행지여 봐 통용이 줄라 제비도 로데 소소지 뽑아로 된서 로그인 인사.
So therefore, at this time, we have come across, or we have encountered this teachings of the Buddha, and met a teacher who teaches unmistaken teachings of the Buddha. And then from ourselves, we have a strong desire and inspiration to gain the state of enlightenment. In other words, having a strong, keen desire to reach the state of enlightenment.
오늘 저는 소소고는 생유착을 되나요 말이라. 가르스는 다다발을 내가 준비했는데 준비해 봐시네. 아니 대바 통고 그러라. 대바 통고도 센터제 요라. 준비도 유니 줘라.
So therefore, one should always remain, one should never discourage and remain courageous, because you are able to now identify that the way of our thinking and state of our mind is something that is completely, erroneous. So now, it is through this understanding you are looking for something that is better, something that is pure, something that really makes yourself to eliminate this erroneous way of thinking. So therefore, one must always, remain oneself as a very courageous, and do not lose a hope for achieving this clearness.
다들 회대로 다들 네게 회대세고로 다까지 나 살이 자치자 잡아는 또 세전은 제시한테 지려는 가서 매대 돈을 받지 다 카드 될 하오리야다.
So although, we have, up until now, we have remained within this unenlightened existence, samsaric existence, because though we have come across, we have encountered with the medicine which we confront of oneself, but we deny to really to take that medicine. It is because of this denial derived from one's ignorance, we are remaining within this boundary.
야, 다들 마한로위 당가서 좀 못돼서 마로위 가만히 지금 봐서라고. 내 가슴 가서 대해서 시에서 다 님모지 사변심도 님모지 사변 좀 예보 많이 전기에 진진요 매배 진진 소장 저기 민지비 민지반에 시다 나기 젠젤라 뭐뭐 나모서
So, which is 255, last paragraph. You have not found a remedy that destroys the seeds of afflictions, yet you have weakened the karma with the contrary or contradiction. Consequently, even though the other conditions do assemble, the karma does not fructify.
되게 내가 데려가 좀 깨치셔서는 내 단지라나 이게 니 사백이 니보 쪼데 변에 니보 담에도 비 싫어도 니바도 걸어 니보 담에도 비 싫어도 많이 나요 주카시다 니 진진지 니 저거 주마치 진지면 통이다 싫다 나기 좀 뭐벌 통해도 와 송도 와 그러 뭐에 내처럼 알아다
이제 이제 소문이
변하러 눈이 변은 녀모기 사변선에 다까지 리포트이 싸워니는 몇 번소에 빵빵빵 터라 미지미지 니 돈이도 비셔로 남에도 비셔로 이제지 용고로 왔어. 인주기 많이 나요. 내가 제마 소비 제제 니 제복하신 진투부터다 통연도 왔어. 전화기 손도 와.
Although, in order to eradicate completely the afflictions, with its seeds, one need to cultivate, or one need to achieve wisdom, understanding, emptiness, or the selflessness. But one can still able to achieve other conditions apart from this wisdom, reality, and emptiness that serve as a remedy for sudden afflictions.
수배 고대보라 고대우세거라 답변은 맞저기 변 가서 녀모기 녀번이 세디니 개발선거 거로기 파파치 파나지 마다봐도 녀모니 번이 매와 수수주고 내가 살아야 개와 있나를 매개와 있나를 지유나야 지마지긴 저번에 보통이 다 맞서 세보세잖아.
So in order to really become a direct antidote towards negative thoughts and emotions or mental afflictions, one need to gain a direct understanding of emptiness, which serves as a direct antidote towards ignorance or the mental actual afflictions. So therefore, one will become an Arya beings. It is through becoming oneself as Arya being, or the noble beings, one will be able to apply a direct antidote towards afflictions. And other than that, at this point, we as ordinary beings, our engagement of the actions, the virtuous actions, accumulation of the virtuous karma, even though you may have accumulated a very strong and intense virtuous karma, it may not be able to produce its fruits. So therefore it says in the text, you can see many such situations among the external and internal causes and effects. Therefore, although you strive to accumulate, strive at the accumulation of the much virtuous karma, if you do not guard against the causes that destroys virtuous karma, such as anger, the virtuous karma will not give rise to its effects, as stated above. What it's really saying here is, if one may have accumulated an intense virtuous karma, if one is not being able to protect that, one is not being able to guard properly, then it may not give rise to its effects, because it may be destroyed by the other negative thoughts and emotions. It's likely to occur within our hearts and emotions. Hence, you must strive to guard against cause that destroy virtuous karma, and make an effort to remedy non-virtuous karma. So let's take a break here. So abandoning the negative deeds, but abandoning the sinful actions. So it is conventionally, we define abandoning the negative deeds is something that you are not actually engaging in it. So this is how the conventional understanding of what is meant by abandoning negative deeds. In Tibetan, which actually, is the actual literal meaning of what is meant by abandoning. So abandoning the negative deeds must be done on the basis of application of antidotes, which really serves as a remedy and uprooting the cause. So that is what is meant by, actual, literal meaning of what is meant by abandoning negative deeds.
돈을 또 비실어 마도 봐도 싸웠고 뭐도 가르쳐야지. 계제싱에 나와. 나중에 레사도 토마 아니 싸와 투사데 마리발을 마도 봐도 진짜는 뺐대요. 마리바 매부 맞아 봐도 아니 차단이 용하게 추나도 거도 대용이 레사.
So, if we were to ask question to ourselves, why it is not possible for us to actually uproot one's, negativities, in other words, the defilements, with its seeds, without understanding emptiness. So therefore, then, because this, it's the same thing if we were to talk about, the process of accumulating karma, the negative karma. So if you really look at it, our process of accumulating karma is really, derived from ignorance. The root cause of this negative karma is ignorance. It is because of that ignorance which give rise to all kinds of negative thoughts and emotions, such as anger, hatred, and attachment, and so forth. It is through this that one engages in the actions that are negative, and one accumulates negative karma. So therefore, in order to eradicate those negative karma with their seeds, one then needs to understand, or one needs to achieve wisdom that understands emptiness. Then let's read through this again. Page 256, second paragraph. If you can totally remove even a very powerful karma, how is it that the sutra says, except for the fruition of former karma?
아니 배나 다다가 저기 디발이 니포테는 디바 파이에르스나 로고 로스 네 잔잔라 나미 마토스나 로도 와스 아니 진짜 가르치는 거 차고 말이에요. 좋아하게 그거도.
So it's just asking a question, right? If you can totally remove even a very powerful karma, how is it that the sutra says except for the fruition of former karma?
델레베 쓰고 싶으면 배가 로고인다. 시스템마다 이 제단이 시나스. 민로서 남의 주비체나 다다지 니보장 니보장가라스. 제부 마주비 주기 거는 도발하와 고네 대다수는 죄메 대해서 도게 봐버려서.
So then, answer to this question. There is no fault with this reasoning. The Buddha spoke in this way with the following intention. When the fruition such as blindness already exist, it is difficult to remove them with the remedy. However, it is easy to stop the effects from arising at the time of the cause, when the effects have not already taken place.
근데 더불어 변하러와. 다다 민원 차사와이나 다 차선은 매저랑 제제를 만들어 지 주의걸로 통화 민로 마차고는 민로 차이기 저때 주의걸로 도토여를 만든 제가 주사디 도거나 아니 가보여를 손도 하시사래서.
So what he's really saying here is during it says at the time of the cause, one can prevent giving rise to its result. For instance, if one is able to prevent the cause that give rise to blindness, the blindness will be blindness will not come into existence. So once the cause is already arisen and one has already become blind, then it is very difficult to eradicate. So we need to make an effort during the causal time that can prevent its fruition.
변화되기 변화로 하버드 다당가서 미누세든지 땡비 통치랑을 변화로 영어로 지제기 다당가이 레사네 영어로 지제사서나 다시 전매로 예외 된제 코너기 기계더 힘매로 저 맞아 봐도 영어도 지레마.
So then let's take another example. If one really engages in actions and accumulate karma, that one is definite for. It is definite for one to take a rebirth within the hell realms. So then what we need to do is that before you take a rebirth within the hell realms, there is a way of preventing oneself to take a rebirth within the hell realms. Once you have taken a rebirth within the hell realms, there is no other means to be purified until and unless you pay the consequences, you experience the entire consequences of your actions.
도게 마와레서 게데 디퍼신데 세반조와 예나 지시는 뭐지 레지 넘버님번에 마도서 시 댄시나스 민로당 미지당 샤오당 태공당 고빠당 연발라 소비 모니 된지비 저당 제번 영원 노셔발라 고네 된바 예데스 관계 시절에서 알마노이다 관계 시절 넘버님비 내가 좀 뭐지비 legend open also seven never yobane main no also.
So that the place of reasoning says here in the sutra, if it is the cause, if it is the case that the sin will be completely eliminated, why did the Buddha teach except for the fruitions of the former karma? To reply that. So as to the answer to this question, the Buddha taught this while having in mind the cause of the cause of the karma of the blindness, having one eye being lame or crippled or dumb or deaf, and like where there is no ability to eliminate the effect of karma that already come to fruition. The intention that is in the form of a cause comes to an end when you acquire different motivations. This is demonstrated by the cases of people who committed murder but later repented, such as Angulamala and Shastra and Ashoka, Avashka, and those who killed their fathers and so forth.
다 되게 단다 도개버기 논된 뭐가 기면 도와 진세대로 가디에 있는 주의걸 카테 작업만든 레벨 주세대 시차에 써야되로.
So the main thing that we need important to understand in this particular chapter is when one when one make an effort to really prevent the fruitions of one's negative actions, one needs to do so at the causal time, in other words, at the time of cause, because once the cause is completed and the fruition is already coming into existence, then there's no other means to really eradicate.
Mana ji ko ne po so na kan so ye se na be cha chen le da cha chen ro be na ko no ale wo na de do ro be na je bo ye so so ma ji da ye ni so so ge ba ba se ba da so ga ge ma se ba da pa se ba ni de ge yin na ya ji ne ko so na ni me bo so tu ge se de ale to mo ge lo sha ji ji bi sin chen mo ban de she ba ne sen bi che ba je to ba na yo so se ban jo wa yin de esa 제다 나라서 나 간들에서는 세미 중앙 당스 마치다 당스 소가 당스 파스가 당스 냥예 메발로 소발라 템바 제노서 그때부터 로사라다 로사 대다데 하나 로 메껴 답친 가세 싸워이나 아니 코샵도 와서 가르서나 단다 세미 중앙 제보 마치다 쓰기니 디바텔라 제바잖아 데바 통하다 와서 와
So here what he really says here is, regardless of how intense, negative karma that one may have accumulated, if one really make an effort to engage in the practice of the purification practice, there's always way of preventing the effect of of one's karma coming into existence. One will be able to actually prevent its effects, such as Angulamala and Ajaptasha and Ashoka and Sarvada and so on.
Pena semutra se ide guja guju kogo se ne ro ni kare ta ni du ma chi tu thamba ta se ro thamba ta che ne ni 계기 님이시나 가제 때에 줘야 되네. 니코 세미트와게 데바통하러.
So let's take for example of Angulamala, who actually had taken the life of 999 individuals, who had killed 999 individuals, and before he reached the 1,000 individuals, killing of 1,000 individuals, he came across with the Buddha and transformed his mind and found the truth in the teachings of the Buddha.
제보 맞지 드싱인데 예니 랑게 여 로와 전코는 주 근데 다 체인지는 게 로 코노기 제사서 비걸라 여 제보세는 리뷰 좀 말아. 간제 여 전코는 주네 아니 상이 쓰다고 해서는 다산로도 여 종차네 아니 또 종을 시켜도 나 되게 저바시우지 상제라잖아요. 상제게 아니 바다마다 세제세 때려 연락 중인 상대 최소네 아니 대바통을 써보라.
So then here also another example of the Aspoka Shivaska, which is also one of the king who actually tried to kill his own father, and he imprisoned his father, and when he realized that it is not something that is appropriate for him to imprison his father, and when he tried to release his father from the prison, the father was found dead. So it is because of this, he was completely, he has such a regret that he couldn't really, it is hard for him to live with himself, to relieve from this, suffering of this. He was mourning very badly at that time. But he came across with the Buddha, and Buddha was taught him in a very skillful means by saying that fathers and mothers to be killed. With these teachings, then Buddha, actually touches the 12 links of different originations. So it is through this kind of teachings he or she can actually, prevent the effects of their karma.
근데 나는 저번에 수가 예니 파마니 세바도는 도사데 아니 가서 취재 양념에서 제보 취재 결과 좀데 최대로 배트 근데도 또 가서 동자를 주세요. 배트 코너 도주 첨부 수지 배 동주기 제보 진행다도 아니 치세네 그치 가르리 디발은 줘봤잖아요. 취재 양념에서 다 용라기 취재지 차와라. 저들 뱃대 동부 리제드니 나도.
So similarly, if you look at the story of the King Ashoka, he was later known as the Dharma King King Ashoka, the Dharma King Ashoka. In an earlier part of his life, he was very violent. He was so vicious, and always, always in the situation of having a battle with others, and war and so forth, so on and so forth. Who is really interested in taking the life of others and using all kinds of weapons, whatever that he had, and so forth. However, in the later part of his life, he came to realize that this is not such a way of living one's life as human beings, and with the great regrets, and that leads himself to engage in the practice of the Dharma and purifications, and later then he became King of Dharma.
그래서 가르쳐는 뒷발은 줘봤잖아요. 아니 뒤샤기 치더라. 아니 다 간제로와 산제기 제선라네. 돈이 무슨 대바탕세 돈이 무슨 또 가라. 사회에서 제가 봐야 된 차이.
It is through this great regrets and remorse. He then followed the teachings of the Buddha and then found the truth. In other words, realized the ultimate nature of reality, which then serves as a remedy towards all his negative thoughts and emotions, and that prevented him from taking, experiencing the consequences of his actions.
그렇지. 너무이다. 게때 마치다다스 마스데바탈라 게스 셈바진체바 예진도 지시를 레스바 만제네 남의 다도 제시나스.
So upon their deaths, okay, let's go through the text again. Just true, and the killers of their mothers had developed other virtuous attitudes. Why then were they reborn in unrelenting hells? Did they fail to eliminate their karma?
당가 중에나 또 도반의 증거로 와. 다 인지 콜라 마치다다 산제기 단다 추된 요디 아니 추로기 디기 뒤바다 저바다 샤바다 마제와 인소나 녀 남에네 제거레스나 손바레스 아니 가르치는 손바레 피게텔라 데디는 게센데 디바 샤센 예여 바로와라소나 아니 데마레 마샤와 있는 디바 대여르스나 데마레스.
So what it's really saying here is that as long as you are unable to engage in the practice that purifies one's negative deeds, and its fruit is certain, the fruit will not be vanished. Individual who engaged, who have accumulated the karma, will experience its consequences. If one is engaged in the practice of purifications, regardless of how intense that karma may be, and there's always a way of purifying and preventing the result, experiencing of the result of the karma.
제신 타와 인라스 냥이 니 메팅나 소베장 레바마이데 대단한 디바신도 타와네 짐바야 줄라스 레알란 제도 메바야 마이노 시에서 대바죠.
To reply to this question again, it says it was taught that they were reborn in such a place as unrelenting hell in order to develop a conviction in their karma and its effects. It is not the case that they fail to completely eliminate their remaining karma, like a silk ball that falls and bounces up. They were reborn in the hell and were then freed. They were also untouched by the fiery garlands of hell and so forth. So this being so, it is both proven that you can completely eradicate sins and that karma certainly has effects. Certainly has effects.
변나로 가서 가서 변나로 레진 남이 가서기 첨보였나 변나 녀와지고 녀와지 남이 레분의 녀모고 뭐 나와서 이제 세도 세대 대대 기발에 변대시 유대로 변나 레되긴 레부 지마치신 좀 하거나야 변나들어 상주섬 변나 예송은 로신이도 타와시 생기지로 상주섬 받았어. 레정원이 로신이도 타와시면서 레되긴 레부 용수도 녀모고 있지 남이 근데 요거를 했어.
So then, it is through one's purification, practice of one's purifications, so one may not experience the result, the entire result of one's negative karma. The result of one's negative karma will be substituted by mere having a slight headache that we talked about earlier, during our previous teachings. And similarly, even the bodhisattvas, it is because of his or her the previous karma, in accumulation of negative karma. Although he may have, purified all his karma, but he or she may take fall into hell realms for a very brief, or very short time, taking rebirth within the hell realms. And be freed from that again. It's just like the ball. If you drop the ball and it will bounce back, it will drop and it will drop into the ground and it will bounce back to the
나도는 마테리 메고는 거다 아니 저랑이 메데 통 아니 마다나 아니 제마처럼 될 쇼 아니 지전에 샤주 제버스 라와이나 라 된다 타서 라 다나 네바치로 네바 섭전치 아니 멤버 때네 멤베 통쇼 아니 계시때 마다나 연주 다리 되니까 쇼처럼 지전에 샤주 제버스나 라우로 다다로 라게 요로 너무 되나다.
So let's take another example. If one is seriously ill and your physician has prescribed your medications and given your medicine to you, and then the physician instructs you to take this medicine, and if you are unable to again cure by taking this medicine, then the next option will be the surgery.
다 단단 내버데 예매 통화에 전에 나와 제만 평고 되는 로디 멤버기에는 저는 나서다 자세시 샤치 제목을 야 로용해요.
So then, having followed the instructions of the physicians, you have taken the medicine and so forth. Then later, when you approach the physician, and then physician might say that, oh, you don't really have to go through this surgery because the medicine that you have taken is already prevented. So the reason why the person has actually gone to hospital or the clinic is because of the illness. Then the person doesn't have to go through the surgery. It's because it is prevented by taking medications. So similarly, when someone who is taking rebirth for a briefly within the Lord realms, and within the law realms. It's similar to you actually, you are there to actually analyze or investigating oneself, and then once you are taking rebirth within that very briefly, and then bouncing back to the positive realms, rebirth within the positive realms.
단다 코로 레치시라고 지노마도 단다 파파트스데 냐와는 제비 계셔스케 말이 단다 냐와스는 로비 계셔스로 단다 왕시 다자마세 좋아요 마제다다 데서 로비 계셔스 주단에 레라데 용거리스로.
So there is such a the way in which that one may take a rebirth within the law realms or within the law realms very briefly, even though one may have engaged in such purification practices and so on. Therefore, it's according to the teachings of the Dharma, scriptures, where it's mentioned that even it is because of the karma, even someone who has generated bodhicitta, someone who has become bodhisattvas, have taken rebirth within the law realms.
가사 치파 가시라 망해 바네 소. 아니 제보 빼진지 매도 텐제 좀 발란 제바제 대해서 최대신의 최바 신의 자체와 세신에서 니레라 뒤송도 디파샤바 로톤자 샤와 차 광아 셰대에서 수준 넘버다가 송장 세분의 남에데 제와다 개바 샤와 차체 레니스 미자와라 소부 동에 타야바 뇽바 땡엔지지 자볼에 송소 어선도.
So then the last paragraph, it is not definite that some particular person can eliminate their karma. The Buddha spoke of this in the King of Concentration Sutra. King Suradatta killed
땡엔지지 자볼에 송소 새끼 말이야.
So King Suradatta killed Supaspanchatra and felt contrite about it. And he built a stupa and made very extensive offerings. 3 times each day he would confess his sin. He did this for 950 billion years. Even though he maintained his ethical discipline correctly in the way, upon his death he was reborn in unrelenting hell. For 10 or 20 billion years he experienced a limitless sufferings, having his eyes squeezed and so forth. Nonetheless, confession is not sinless. For if you do not confess sin, you will experience suffering that are greater and longer duration than if you had confessed them. So, through confession, the restraint, you can purify yourself of sin without any reminders. However, there is a vast difference between the purity of having never been tarnished by a fault from beginning and the purity attained through confession of that fault. For example, the Bodhisattva's level 6. Yeah.
What is this? Nimbo Tagi Gonero, Dupashati Terani, Zawani and Jim to the Shaba. Any young do you to the tower? Any carrier, any young shoe to the tower until the Shatsimo.
So it is through, the practice of the application of 4 powerful antidotes. Then one can completely eradicate the fruition of one's negative karma, or one can lessen the duration of the experiencing of this fruition of this karma, and one can lessen the the intensity of the karmas and so forth.
Shuji Sanje na Desun de Sabi Ki Zawa Tang, Rangi, Desun de Sabi Ki Zawa na Shuji de Tabi, Loa Sanje na De Jinjo, Sanje de Tamba Tama, Ji Tai Sanje, Ji Sende Nimuchu to Sumiwa, Ganshi Jinjo.
So when it comes to the dedications, one should not only dedicate the virtues of one's own self. One should dedicate the virtues of the three times, the virtues of the three times of oneself, and all other beings, including Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, for the accomplishment of everlasting happiness for all other sentient beings, and also dedicating one's virtues and the virtues of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas for the sustenance of the teachings of the Buddha and so forth. So it is, we always experience and we see a lot of sufferings it was experienced by the countless beings. So one can then, as a practitioners, by reflecting one's mind upon those beings and try to, cultivate a compassion and extend one's compassion towards all beings who are undergoing sufferings.
Gyöchen Sije Mida Mimikyu Tsera Kundu Gyale Mapayi Nada Nandan Jawa Magyuchi Katse Teba Chola Chuchuchu Sujin Juna Sopa Devitse Tuden Nanju Tatu Chushishin Chashi Jansu Shokun Chagyuchi Lami Kutse Ratenjin Lanka Chene Choshu Divatan Lozan Tenbi Jumbe Sasunju Doye Minse Tatu Tengyuchi Ravi Koye Shinkamdu Pedang Dewa Malu Jovene Chere Sewa Tenze Gyasoyi Shabe Siti Badu Tenyoji Shabe Pamu Chita Chenwa Dan Gutu Sampo Deya Dejente Deda Kunju Jesu Dalo Chem Gewa Tita Tamshe Ratu Mo Yusu Shebe Gewa Tamshe Ki Wawa Ganga Choto Mapate Dahi Gewe Zawa Dekunjang Zombo Chushi Ratu